Do, 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 do.
All right, we're going live in three, two, one. Well, good evening, everyone. The time is 8:07 p.m. and we are back for another Tantra Tuesday with our good friend Heidi Lepke. Hello, Heidi.
Hey, Leroy. Hi, everyone.
Now, as you all know, I am broadcasting from the heart and soul of Regent Park, but Heidi has a bit of a nomadic spirit, so it's always good to confirm where she's from. The last time she was in Edmonton. Where do we find the intrepid Heidi today?
Well,
Are you in the cockpit of your jet, it looks like? Are you off?
yes, I'm in my amazing transportation device, otherwise known as my car. I just had a really great little lunch at this restaurant called Mosaics Cafe in Edmonton. So I'm in the middle of actually relocating into a fifth wheel so I can do my Tantra tour across BC. I find myself in this little segue phase. So I thought, why not broadcast right from my car?
Amazing. Now this is a bit of a special event for us tonight because we're testing some new technology. So if there's some bumps or you feel like there's just something so special about this evening, you'll know why. We're actually testing out a newer version of Zoom. And so let me just check to make sure that we are broadcasting okay.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we are. And tonight's topic is, how would you give a title to tonight's topic, Heidi?
I think tonight is a little exploration into some of the conceptions or preconceptions about what exactly Tantra is.
Yes. So I would say that, I still feel like I'm very new to Tantra, even though we've been doing these Facebook Lives. So I'm feeling like I'm starting to get a better handle on it. But I would say there is still a lot of, myths and misconceptions and maybe some inaccuracies about Tantra. I know that when I first maybe heard about Tantra years ago, it was in relation to one of my icons, who is Sting. And people would often talk about, these 6-hour sessions, I don't know what you'd call them, of tantric sex that Sting would be able to do. So I think a lot of people, when they hear Tantra now, that's kind of like an image that they have of, it's like some kind of mystical sexual secrets or something like that. So how would you, so if that's the popular image, I don't know, what is true about it and what is maybe some more information that we need to learn?
I love this question. And you know what it makes me think? It's like today we have access to so much information and so many different areas. And we come across different snippets from here and there. And it's helpful to relate Tantra to yoga. If you haven't done a lot of yoga, before I started doing yoga, I only saw bits and pieces, say in magazines or on TV. And so I had this thought that maybe yoga was someone who is this immensely skilled physical acrobatic human being that could balance the entire weight of their body on one arm while they were in a horizontal position, like floating above the ground. And so, because that's what I saw on magazine covers. And so that was my kind of entry point into yoga. And And it's no wonder we're trying to become experts in so many things, and there's limited time and limited mental bandwidth. So Sting has kind of been a loud voice in announcing Tantra to the world. And a lot of people I talk to, they don't really know. They say, well, I'm not really sure what Tantra is, but I heard about Tantra when Sting described his 6-hour lovemaking sessions. And so for a lot of us, that's kind of our first brush up against the whole philosophy and practice of Tantra. And it's cool because, you know, like anything, once you start really diving in, there's usually more to it than what you first thought. And so there is way more to Tantra than 6-hour lovemaking sessions, although that can be a perk of Tantra. And I just want to give like a really 360-foot view of what it is, because we're going to kind of zoom in a little bit and zoom out a little bit in this talk. But if you want to zoom like all the way and get to the most basic, bare bones definition, a tantra or tantra is a scripture. It's a text. It's a book. So if you want to be really clear and basic, when you describe tantra, you can say, well, tantra is a scripture. And when the teachings of this philosophy were originally written, they started in an oral tradition passed down from guru to teacher. And then when they were written down, they were written in these books called tantras, hence the name Tantra. So that's like a super literal way to look at it. If we want to expand out, you know, even a little bit more and look at the meaning of the word Tantra in Sanskrit, it's two parts combined to mean an instrument of expansion. And so you can say that Tantra is a body of practices and a philosophy that supports us in our evolution, supports us in our expansion. And it's a way to get closer and more intimate with our true nature, our true essence. And so the books, they contained all of these different practices, and it was a lot of meditation techniques, a lot of working with esoteric things like mantras and yantras, which are a type of sacred geometry. I worked with different universal energies. And the whole premise, one of the premises, is that we're like these kind of patterns of the universe. All of us are a little universe walking around, and we've got potential to grow and blossom into these fully actualized beings. And so the techniques in the tantras are all ways to help us connect to our true essence.
So, I mean, certainly there are, I guess, different approaches to teaching Tantra. So not every teacher out there, you know, has the same perspective, I guess, that you do. And it's not to say that they're wrong and you're right. But I guess, do you have any thoughts for people on, I guess, like what they should think about, like when they're considering a teacher, for example, like, oh, this person says they're doing a class on Tantra, and people want to, I don't know, how do we know who this person is?
Yeah. Well, do you know what's funny is saying I teach Tantra is a little bit like saying, I make movies. It begs a second question. What kind of movies do you make? What kind of Tantra do you teach? Because it's a huge practice. There's a huge umbrella of things that are included under Tantra. And funnily enough, if that's a word, even traditional Tantra, even classical Tantra, there's so many different lineages and so many different styles, and some of them contradict each other. So it happens a lot, once you start diving into the different traditions. Even within one tradition, there's different branches and different variations, and they contradict each other at times.
I promise I won't make this a tangent, but I was watching an amazing video on Bruce Lee today.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that he was talking about was how he wasn't really promoting a style. He felt that styles or even schools, traditions, become too rigid.
Hmm.
And at the end, you're, at least in the fighting world, in the combative arts, you don't want to have a style while you're using it. You know what I mean? When you're in the moment, you're basically forgetting all of the rigid parts of the style. And he's always talking about keeping it fluid and keeping it
Mm.
non-rigid. So I think
Oh,
every teacher is going to bring their personality to the teaching. And I think ultimately it's a feeling of trust that you have with that person, I guess, that should, if your gut says, this person feels a bit sketchy, even though they may have like a lot of qualifications or whatnot, I think it's better to trust that feeling and say, hey, I like this person.
yeah. And you just described a beautiful union of the masculine and the feminine, which are the ingredients for mastery in any art. So having that knowledge and that theory, and whether that be a particular style of a martial art or whether that be a particular lineage of Tantra, that becomes your foundation. You got to get that. That's the masculine side of the equation. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you're teaching or practicing martial arts, you turn that off. You're not checking your notes. You're just
Yeah.
flowing with what's alive, but that's already been programmed into you. So being a fluid, spontaneous teacher is amazing, but you're not going to be great at it if you haven't put in the groundwork to learn the techniques and to learn the principles and to learn the theory. Alternatively, if you are so by the book that you're following, you're not adapting to the situation, you're not adapting to the skill level of the participants, you're not going to be a good teacher either. So, like anything in life, mastery and success takes a harmonization and a union between the masculine and the feminine principle.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Before we
well, we're
move on, I just want to jump in a little because I don't feel like I answered your question. And so you had asked me how to choose a teacher when you're looking at a tantra workshop. And there's a
Mhm.
couple things I would suggest. So the first is just like you would ask a movie producer, what kind of movies do you produce? Ask the teacher, what kind of tantra do you teach? And let them share their particular style. Um, Ask them, is this sexually based tantra? Is this spiritually based tantra? You want to um, watch a YouTube video of them if you can. Check out their website, and that'll give you a lot of information as to what style of tantra it is, because this world of tantra ranges from people teaching you how to have like mind-blowing orgasms by showing you exactly what part of your body to touch and how, to someone teaching you a meditation that you do, or a mantra that you do alone for 30 days straight or a year straight. So there's a big range. And if you can actually talk to someone, that's even the best way, just to get a
Mhm.
sense of their energy. And like you said, use your intuition. Do I resonate with this person? So the
Mhm.
first is kind of a fact-finding mission, finding out what kind of tantra they teach, and then check in with your intuition and see if you resonate with this person.
Love it. All right. Well, we were going to keep this short, relatively short, but it was sweet. Anything else you would like to share before we sign off for another week?
Oh, I have so much more. I just want to share real quick, um, and this is going to be a bigger video actually, but why this huge body of knowledge that includes so many things is often known as a small part. Like, this entire ocean is known as just one little nook of the ocean. And part of the reason, I'm going to give one reason today, and then we'll do a second video for the second reasons.
Sure.
There's a few, but one of them is that Tantra is one of the only religions that embraced the body as sacred and
Mm,
that embraced sexuality as a valid spiritual activity. And the beautiful thing about this form of spirituality is that it doesn't separate your spiritual practice or your religious practice from your everyday life. It actually says, first of all, your spiritual practice is coming into contact with your own true nature. It's discovering yourself, because all that's out there is also inside you. And the fastest portal to discover the universe is to go inside and fully discover yourself. So if that's our goal, then anything you're already doing can be your valid spiritual practice. So it's
mhm.
not that you live your life and then you go to church, or you have to give up your life and live on a mountain and renounce all your worldly belongings and relationships. It's okay, well, what do you do? What does your day look like?
Mhm.
And let's take each one of those activities and approach them as a way to gain deeper self-realization and deeper intimacy with yourself. So it's a very integrative spiritual path. It doesn't eliminate anything from your spiritual practice. And so
Mhm.
by virtue of that, sexuality was seen in a receptive way. It was a welcomed part of a spiritual practice. And because that's so rare in religions, it was kind of one of the defining features. This is what made Tantra different from other spiritual paths. And so,
Mm.
like we tend to focus on the differentiating factor. So all of our attention kind of went whoop and focused on,
Right.
oh, Tantra includes sexuality. Great. And then it's like the telephone game. You tell your friend a message, and then they repeat that message to their friend, and then they repeat it to their friend. And somehow it came to be, well, Tantra is sexuality.
Mhm.
And I like to use the image of a giant oak tree with many branches, and each of those branches is another way of practicing Tantra. And sexuality is a beautiful branch on that tree, but it's not the tree, it's just one of many branches.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we will sign off for another week. Um, shall we? Shall we? No, maybe we'll post. We have some announcements to make with some
Oh,
finalization. Or should
yes.
we?
Let's
Okay.
just celebrate the fact that we have found our venues for
Yes.
the November events.
Yes. So we've been working hard to find the right kind of venue, and it was a bit more of a challenge on my end than I expected to be. But yes, we're happy to say that we've got two great venues.
Yes, we do.
Unfortunately, Heidi is in Edmonton, so she's only seen them virtually. So I'll talk a little bit about both. Some of you have probably been to Alternity. So we've decided to do the tantric speed dating at Alternity, and I know that there's quite a few people in the group who've either hosted events there or who've had events there. So yeah, it's going to be great to do a little bit more collaborating with Alternity. There's a great
Mhm.
introduction. And
I
then
can't
for the
wait to
rest,
see the space. I cannot
yeah,
wait to see it. It sounds and looks so beautiful. I think it's
it's
perfect for tantric speed dating.
yeah, it's a very unique space. For those of you who don't know, it's a cafe, and they host a lot of events there, but they don't serve alcohol. So all of the food I think is vegan, and they have a huge selection of like tonics and elixirs and juices and
Mm.
smoothies and that kind of thing, but no alcohol. So yeah, it's a great space with a great energy to it.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we'll be putting out all the details shortly. But with that, we will sign off. So thank you again, Heidi,
Thank you, Leroy.
and we'll see you next week. And thank you everyone for joining us. Unfortunately, because we were kind of doing some new things tonight, I wasn't able to monitor the Facebook Live feed to greet people as they were coming in, but I did see a couple of people like the video. So thank you to all of you who did join us.
Awesome.
And see you all next week.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.